Hey everybody, this is Eli, and with me as always is our fearless leader,
Michael Anderson.
I always pause, hoping you'll jump in earlier, and you never do.
But maybe next time.
Maybe next time. This is episode 4 of the GameWisp Weekly Podcast, episode 4. Every episode we pick a theme, we play a game centered around that theme, and we talk about gaming and gaming video things related to that theme. And this week's theme, Mr. Anderson.
Open world games.
Open world games. That's right. We're talking about open world games. What is an open world game? How do we feel about open world games?
Feelings.
Where do they excel? Where do they fall flat? Are they redeemable as a genre? These are all things we're going to talk about this week because this week marked the release of 2 really big open world games.
That's right.
Dragon Age Inquisition and Far Cry 4.
Far Cry 4. That's right.
So without further ado, Michael is going to be playing our open world game of choice, The Elder Scrolls Skyrim.
That's right.
Because we don't want to pay $60 for a new open world game
That is
when we
true.
still have hours of enjoyment from Skyrim.
So many hours of enjoyment.
Yes.
I'm going to load this game.
Is that 106,817? Like, is that hours, minutes, seconds for how long you've been playing this game?
Could be.
Dear God. That is a lot
Maybe
of time.
I left it paused for a while. We'll just pretend that I left it running for
Perhaps
a while.
that's the first thing we should say about open world games is that there are hours of enjoyment to be
There's
had.
so many much hours.
From open
huge
world
amounts of
games.
time. That's right.
And then the second thing we'll say about open world games is, what is an open world game?
That is.
Can you provide me with a definition, Michael Anderson? Go.
I would love to provide you with a definition. I've thought about this a little bit, and we've had a little bit of conversations about it, but I think that there's a couple things that mark a really, like a true open world game. And one of those things is exploration, and the other thing is is sort of like not being bound to traditional levels as you would think of them in a game. So not like RPG levels specifically, but more like you're not traversing from level 1 to level 2, level
so
3.
I've thought about this, and I've come up with a good term for what this is, right? So a story-driven game, like a game driven by levels or advancement through a story, I would call that like linear progression, right? You're moving from thing to thing. I feel like what defines an open world game is this idea of fuzzy progression.
Okay.
You like that? You like that term?
Yeah, that's a really good term.
It's this idea that
Unpack that for me.
There are ultimately a lot of different ways to move forward in an open world game.
Yeah.
Now, there's a main storyline, and you could argue that moving forward is completing that storyline.
Right.
But you could also argue that moving forward is just doing something like leveling a character, completing a lot of side quests, finding different items. And all these things may lead toward a sense of progression, like you gain XP, or you just find out more of a story, or maybe your reputation in the world changes. Those are all kind of ideas built around progression, but that progression is very fuzzy compared to a highly structured narrative game like a Braid or I would argue even a Mass Effect.
Yeah.
To an extent. And so that,
especially the sort of earlier one, like Mass Effect 1 is a lot more of an open world game. Much more a linear progression. Maybe even Mass Effect 3. So I guess it's hard to say.
I wouldn't really classify any Mass Effect game as necessarily open world.
Yeah.
Mainly because they drive very strongly toward a resolution, right?
Yeah.
Like eventually, you have to move forward. And you have to move forward to gain more story, to gain more characters, to unlock like essential points or functionality in the game. You have to move forward.
Yeah.
I think a game like Skyrim, that's not necessarily true with respect to the main storyline.
Yeah.
So for example, I can get shouts, I can get better armor, I can get my skills can go higher, and I never even touch the main storyline.
Yeah. I think that as a part of that fuzzy progression, there is this idea of emergent progression and emergent like quests, emergent activity. So like you go around and we can stop and take a look at the map here. I've got a couple mods on. One of them is like a roads mod.
That is a really helpful mod.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like they're hand drawn. They're really nice, but also like anyway, so you see all the different, locales, and there's stuff that, I still haven't discovered that just happen to be on the map here. And so, there's other things like down in this area that there may be things to discover, like a town or a township or something. And I think that's what's cool about open world games is that you can go into that town and go into a tavern, and there can be a totally unrelated to the main storyline quest that you can just get and do. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, going back to a game like Mass Effect, I mean, you can do that in Mass Effect, right? There are side quests and things to perform, but I think they're all in support of a major narrative.
Yeah.
And I feel like most of the side quests in a game like Elder Scrolls really aren't.
That's true.
They just kind of happen. Like one of my favorite Elder Scrolls quests is the one that's basically a ripoff of the movie The Hangover. Have you played that one in Skyrim? Oh, it's great. There's a Daedric guy in a tavern, and you go out and party with him, and you wake up the next day and have no idea what happened. And so you have to like go from town to town and reconstruct all the like havoc you wrought.
That's really funny.
Countryside. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's really.
I don't think I've done that one yet. So
yeah. It turns out like the Daedric guy ended up being, he was like the god of partying and frivolity or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was just, and so he was just having a fun time.
That's funny.
But yeah, that was a particularly good quest line and really deep. Really deep, like 8 or 10 quests deep, and in no way related to the main storyline whatsoever.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn the, real quick, I'm going to turn the, let's see where they are. Subtitles on.
General subtitles.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
I don't know. I guess if an open world game is this idea of fuzzy progression, I think it gets harder to define some games as open world when they have open world elements.
Yeah.
For example, is Grand Theft Auto open world?
Yeah. That's a very interesting, challenging question. I think in a lot of ways it is, and I would probably land on the side of the argument that yes, it is open world.
You think?
That's what I think that's where I would land. I think that it does drive you toward like a specific quest, but or sort of like a specific like mission or ending or whatever.
Well, yeah, you've always got like the major storyline quest,
but you don't
right?
ever have to do that if you don't want to. I mean,
you could just drive around forever.
You could, and that's. But I guess maybe the difference there is that, really, with Skyrim, you can sort of like, just as an example, you can never do never really interact with the main characters. You can interact with other people, and other stuff happens. When in something like GTA 5, you maybe have all these phone calls and you can like do side quests, but they're related to the main storyline. So maybe that's a difference there.
Yeah, I think that perhaps when we're comparing a game like Skyrim and Grand Theft Auto, I think Grand Theft Auto and the designers of Grand Theft Auto have a very particular vision of who they want those characters to be.
Yeah.
There's a very strong idea of the way a character should behave, and it's demonstrated in like various cutscenes that tell the story and that kind of thing. Whereas you don't really see that as much in Skyrim, and it's one of my major complaints. If open world games are great because they provide you an opportunity to tell your own story, to experience your own things.
2 bears.
I think a huge shortcoming of open world games is the fact that if there's a main storyline, you can very much be the victim of whoever the developers want you to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge downside. Like if we look at a game like Grand Theft Auto, it's particularly Grand Theft Auto 4 is one of my favorite examples. Nico Bellic was a very particular character, right?
Yeah.
In cutscenes, he was demonstrated to act in a very particular way and do a very particular thing. For example, he never took drugs in a cutscene.
Yeah.
At least to my knowledge, he never did. And it was never an option for you to let him do that. Yet, however, in the game, as you played it, you could go to bars, you could go on mass killing sprees, you could steal and kill and maim and all the stuff that seems very negative. Yet in cutscenes, he acted in a way that may be completely contrary to the way you play the game.
Right.
And so this is the biggest drawback of open world games, in my opinion, is that there is a story the developers want to tell, and they're going to tell it at the expense of the way you're crafting the character, or you're crafting your own internal story of how things are playing out. I don't think Skyrim suffers from this as much as a game like Grand Theft Auto, but perhaps it's still present.
Right.
I wouldn't know because when I play Skyrim game or when I played Skyrim or Elder Scrolls games, I never make it through the main storyline.
That is true.
I play for like 100 hours and never managed to finish it.
Never managed to finish it.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
some games try to get around this, right? Like it's that classic debate of, well, there's player choice versus the story the developers want to tell.
Yeah.
And, in telling a story, you can't account for every outcome a player might take part in.
Right.
And so what you have to do is you have to diminish the impact of player choice while still giving the illusion that those choices actually matter.
Right, and that's a big downside to open world games, I think.
Agreed. And even though we're on the fence about whether or not Mass Effect is open world.
Yeah.
Yes, no, maybe. I don't really know. We can talk about how they dangled the illusion of player choice.
Right.
And some things they did really interestingly. For example, in the transition between Mass Effect 1 and 2, they introduced a story element that made it seem sensical for you to completely reconstruct your character.
Right.
That was really interesting. And that was a way for them to, one, give the players a mulligan, and if they wanted it, and two, tell a particular story the way they needed to tell it.
Yeah.
But the choice ultimately didn't matter, right? Like the appearance of your character doesn't matter. The fact that your character may have necessarily, been on Yakuza or grown up in an overpopulated Earth world, at the end of the day really doesn't impact the story that much.
And does it, I think an interesting question that we haven't really thought of, or I haven't thought of, is like, does it impact you as the player rather than your story? Like, do you identify, as you sort of inhabit this character to some extent, do you identify with somebody who, has that like growing childhood or something, and so it enhances your play experience to make those choices rather than necessarily any story choices?
I grew up in a densely populated urban area, and so I identify with Shepard by selecting that box. Suddenly he's my Commander Shepard. I don't know.
Yeah, or like, you want to play it as, like you want the character that you inhabit to have this history so that you sort of like make the decisions that you imagine somebody who grew up that way might make. I don't know.
I don't think the effect is necessarily related to personalization, right? Like, personalization is a different argument. We can change the appearance of a character. We can change their backstory. We can even change the way we want them to interact with other characters.
Yeah.
And that's a means for personalization. What it doesn't really do, and what it can't do due to the sort of technical constraints of modern software development, is it can't have profound effects on the storyline if there is a particular story that developers want to tell. Right. We can't have, far sweeping changes in the game take place in a game like Mass Effect, because you decide to play it differently. For example, we couldn't give the hero the option to kill or save Saren at the end of Mass Effect 1. Right, because that could have far sweeping consequences on later games.
Right,
the consequences that the developers can't really account for, because you basically make two different games. Maybe that's how different that could be. Or they would downplay the choice to save him, and maybe he'd just be in a prison cell for the rest of the series. Which who cares, right? It has no effect on the outcome.
Right.
And so I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's this idea that we dangle the carrot of telling your own story and your actions having meaning and these outcomes have weight in the universe when we build these story-driven games, and it's just not true. Like it doesn't come out to pass. Like the choices you make at the end of the day have to be by design fairly irrelevant.
Yeah, for sure. And especially when they want to force you down a specific path, right? Open world games, especially even with adding DLC, it can make things just not fit the storyline. A particular story that's like an anecdote, but is one that really speaks to this issue that I experienced with Fallout 3, excuse me. And this is near the end of the game. I may spoil this for you, but it's been like 10 years, so
get over it.
Go play it. But what happens is, a few minutes before you go to like the final, or a few missions before you go to the final area, which the final like segment is this part where you're defending like a water treatment plant that you and your father have been working on. He died earlier in it, and so now you're coming back to defend it from the people that killed him and give clean, fresh water to the wasteland and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, at the end, they fill this thing with radiation, right? They fill this inner room with radiation, and they set the place to blow, and the only way to like turn off the bomb or turn off the overheating is for you to go in and sacrifice yourself.
Crawl through the radiation.
Right, and finally make it, and then
So you got to go Captain Kirk or Spock, depending on which Star Trek movie.
That's exactly right. And what's stupid about that is, for me in my quest, literally like an hour or two before I got to that point, I went and did a side quest where there's an ultra intelligent mutant that's immune to radiation.
How convenient.
That comes and you basically have him do some stuff and do some stuff for you, and
he stays in your party.
And he stays in your party because he's awesome. And anyway, so that is not an option for me to send the super intelligent mutant who's immune to radiation into the radiation to flip a switch. That's like literally all you do. And so for me, they want to force you down this path of like this crazy, this like emotional, sacrifice that you're making for the wasteland and all this stuff. But really, it's pointless because there's a dude standing right here that could totally flip your switch and is immune to radiation.
And he just watches you walk in.
Yeah.
I hope if he shoved you in, perhaps that would be
right.
different.
That might be better, but that's like exactly the opposite of what they do. So I don't know. That to me was like really indicative of how the open worldness can sort of like
collapse,
be collapsed by their like storage choice or their story choice.
Their need to have a particular ending.
Yeah, and so I didn't like that very much.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you can argue that, like with the ending of Mass Effect 3, why things felt so, why the ending went down the way it did. Perhaps the most controversial ending in the history of video games, is the fact that they had a particular story they wanted to tell, and they had to tell it in a way that downplayed a lot of the player choice.
Yeah.
Also just a terrible ending. So, I don't know.
It was so out of character. Now, we don't need to talk totally about that, but if you like. I heard somebody say, like, look at the whole game as the ending. Yeah, it's a pretty great long 30-hour ending or 10-hour ending or whatever. So,
yeah.
That was kind of, whoop.
I don't know.
Anyway,
so
regardless, speaking of BioWare and things, we mentioned talking about Dragon Age.
Oh, Dragon Age. Yeah, we should talk about that. Yeah. So, confession, I've never played a Dragon Age. So I am not the person to provide you with a recommendation on whether or not Inquisition is any good. However, numerous video game reviews have indicated as such.
Yeah, it's supposedly really good. Oh, I don't have a sword out.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about Dragon Age 1, which is the only one that I've played, Dragon Age Origins, is that there is a really strong RPG element to it. You collect loot and you do lots of leveling up and picking different classes and different like ways to play, and there's just a lot of variety there. And then in the in Dragon Age 2, I actually like I said, I haven't played it yet, but from what I understand, it's a lot more like Mass Effect-y in its sort of like play style and leveling and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that despite that I love playing Mass Effect, I think that sounds like a pretty big departure from that particular or for that particular game, and so I'm excited that some of those RPG elements are coming back in
that'd be cool.
Dragon Age Inquisition.
I guess I'll have to play it. I do what I always do when new games come out. I don't play them. I just watch Let's Plays of them.
Right. Have you seen any Let's Plays so far?
Yeah, I'll make a couple recommendations. And as always, when we make Let's Play recommendations, we like to pick obscure stuff or smaller things because it's more fun, right?
Right.
To find something new. So if you're looking for a really good no commentary walkthrough Let's Play, so you just it's just gameplay. There's no commentary from the player.
Yeah.
Mr. Retro Kid 91 has a really good no commentary LP.
That's cool.
So you can.
Sometimes I like those a lot.
If you just want to see a little bit of gameplay, I really like them. If I need like a 30-minute intro to a game. Yeah. And just want to see a little bit of playthrough and not really care about anything else.
Right on.
I'm out for more information than being entertained. Then I'll watch a walkthrough LP. And so that's Mr. Retro Kid 91. We'll put them in the show notes. Our good friends over at Geek Remix. Full disclosure, they are good friends.
That's right.
They're also a great channel.
You should check them out. Totally.
They are doing they're 2 Girls, 1 Let's Play series on Dragon Age Inquisition. And I think they got like 10 episodes out now, 10 or 11, 12. I can't remember. So I've watched the first couple ones of that. Very good, very funny stuff. So if you're looking for something
nice.
more in the realm of entertainment, you can check theirs out. we will have it in the show notes.
That's cool. Yeah, you should definitely check out Geek Remix. They are awesome.
Good stuff. And I will probably play it myself someday.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have it on a morning coffee sometime.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, I don't know.
It seems like a really cool game, and I like BioWare stuff, so
yes,
it's going to be a good one for us.
Yes. Other gaming news this week. I'm really excited about the Grand Theft Auto 5 first-person mode. I immediately dismissed it when I heard about it. I was like, "Oh, good! They just stuck a camera on a character's face, and that's all. That's going to be the game, or whatever. Who cares? Whatever." I've always felt like Grand Theft Auto as a series suffered because, in light of doing everything, they did nothing well. Like, the driving was good enough.
Yeah.
The combat was good enough. It wasn't the best, The storytelling was good enough. And so I just sort of always thought with the combat, like, man, this would be much better if it was, like, really first person.
Yeah.
You could have some precision aiming. You'd be quite a bit more immersed in what was going on.
Right.
I feel like it would be much better as a first person experience if it was done right. And so I watched the...
I took those healing potions.
And then was
no healing of that, I guess.
Immediately beheaded. I feel like, that Rockstar would have to do first person right. Like, have to have the attention to detail that's required for a first person game, particularly in things that are close to the screen that the player can see, like weapons and items and stuff. And I watched the IGN Plays playthrough of the first mission in Grand Theft Auto 5 and was really impressed. Really impressed with how they handled first person.
Yeah.
The big giveaway that they put a lot of time in it was there's a part in the first mission where you have to, like, detonate a bomb or something. It's a bank heist, and the main character holds up a Nokia brick phone to detonate the bomb,
as one does.
And in a third person game, there doesn't really need to be a lot of time spent modeling a Nokia brick phone in a player's hand, because you're gonna dedicate a handful of pixels to that. And it's just not going to matter. But yet, in a first-person game, you have to sort of intimately detail the
pieces.
Phone, the buttons, the LCD screen, the hand holding the thing, and all that stuff. And Rockstar did that. Like, the thumb hovers over the button in a very uncertain manner. There's full screen animations and backlighting on the phone, and like all this stuff that you just have to think about when you move into first person. And
they really just didn't attach a GoPro.
Yeah, and so that really kind of sucked me into watching the rest of the IGN playthrough, because I was like, man, I got to see what else they've done here, and they've really done a good job. When the character turns a flip or a somersault to dodge, the camera spins, and there's reloading animations that are really in depth for all the guns, just various things. So they did an extremely good job on that, and I'm pretty psyched to see what Let's Players do with that. Now they have a very, that first person mode to kind of enter into and do some storytelling.
Yeah.
There have been some great videos done around Grand Theft Auto 5. Some YouTubers have kind of made their career on Grand Theft Auto 5 and have done a good job of it,
There's a lot of really cool Grand Theft Auto 5 Let's Plays, especially with like the airplanes and a lot of I've seen a lot of cool stuff with that.
And
trick flying and stuff.
So just having a first-person mode there is pretty awesome.
Totally.
I know. Was it Speedy W3 who did a lot of Grand Theft Auto stuff, and
it may be
and it's just had a pretty meteoric rise in views and subs.
That's awesome.
Based on the quality of his Grand. I would argue the quality of his Grand Theft Auto videos.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, it'll be cool to see what Let's Players do with the first person mode.
Absolutely.
Grand Theft Auto 5. And maybe someday I'll finally get that for the PC and sit down and play it. Because I just didn't buy it on a console. I'm not a console gamer.
Yeah.
And when I heard it wasn't getting simultaneously released across PC and console, I was like, meh, whatever. But it seems like the wait was worth it. So maybe I'll go pick it up.
Yeah, especially, you're gonna get the higher quality everything from that. Because it came out initially as last generation, so there's no reports of next generation anything, and then they come out and it's just better and awesome.
And they had some trouble, Rockstar did, with their last generation copy of Grand Theft Auto, or their version that goes out on the Xbox and the PS3, PS4 or PS7, I don't know. How do I not know what we're on for the PlayStation anymore? That's crazy. It's like totally brain farted.
That's really funny.
But if you had a save game that was played before, I want to say October 2013, and you picked up Grand Theft Auto 5, for your Xbox One or your PS4 or whatever, you couldn't import your old character data. Like, you couldn't move it from the old console, or from the old console version.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, people just weren't able to retrieve their character data.
Did they fix it?
Well, there was the summarily there was the Twitter freakout,
as they do.
Yes, as is expected nowadays, the mass Twitter freakout.
That's right.
And and so Rockstar had a couple options there. They could bury their head in the sand. They could say we're working on it and take 12 months.
Yeah.
Or they could get on the ball and fix it quickly, which is what they chose to do, which I would argue was the best move to make.
That's right.
And so they've gotten that fixed really quickly, really fast turnaround time with patching that. People are getting their characters in, playing the new version with their old save data, et cetera, et cetera. And so everything is hunky-dory there in Rockstar Grand Theft Auto 5 land.
That's nice.
Yeah. So that's really great. And that's kind of an example of a company doing it well. And in my mind, they just did everything well there. With the whole revamp of Grand Theft Auto 5, it wasn't really a cash grab in my mind. It was definitely expanded enough to warrant, a full update of the game like that. It was definitely expansive enough to warrant purchase if you haven't purchased it or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they did that right, handled it correctly. And then when there were there were day zero bugs with the launch or whatever, they fixed it quickly and got on the ball.
That's great.
Other companies could probably take heed from that.
Right. Ubisoft.
Looking
at you.
Yeah, looking at you.
But,
looking at that Halo matchmaking on the Master Chief Collection.
But 343's been pretty awesome at pushing, recognizing that there is a problem, and
that's the first part of the battle,
right? And then pushing updates often. I think they've pushed 4 or 5. They just pushed one today, which is supposedly the update. that fixes everything, and they've just been really clear about what's been happening, why it's been happening, and you can kind of understand multiplayer issues at scale, as opposed to single player bugs everywhere.
Yeah.
Personally, because it's everything works fine. The single player campaign's great, everything's great except for, that is. I thought that person was dead. They are not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, so you can kind of understand it, but at the same time you can't. So I don't know.
I guess we could have a debate about, is the new culture of AAA titles release now, fix later, release now, update later, release now, give me content that should have been day one content for a price later. I was actually reading an article earlier today about Super Smash Brothers.
Oh, really?
And so, so Super Smash Brothers, man, I always get them mixed up because I don't play a lot of Smash Brothers, but the one that was on GameCube, Melee? Or was it Brawl? I think it was Melee. We're going to say Melee, even though I could be wrong.
Fair enough.
So the Cube version of Super Smash Brothers, released a decade ago or something, has not had a single update.
Yeah.
Never been patched, never been updated.
It's perfect.
Yeah, the characters that came out were exactly how they are. And that's in opposition to games that are updated frequently, especially competitive games like League of Legends or something where there's constantly updates. But the article is really interesting, and maybe we'll link it if I can find it again. Talked about how the approach that Nintendo used with Super Smash Brothers wasn't we're going to build a perfectly balanced fighter such that, Fox has a perfect chance against Luigi and it's all at player skill. It's some of these characters are going to be better than others.
Yeah.
And, there are going to be power rankings and you're going to pick the one that is the best or whatever. But what happens is over time, just because they don't patch this game, because they don't change anything, because they don't listen to cries of nerf this and nerf that, and this is OP, players find interesting ways to make characters awesome.
Yeah.
And so you could actually see over time how the number one character was Sheik. Sheik was so awesome in Brawl, and then suddenly, 5 years into its life cycle, Star Fox is the best character.
Yeah, because somebody found some secret way to make them awesome.
Like the Ice Climbers were, I think there was 25 characters or something, and the Ice Climbers were ranked 19th, and then now they're ranked 2.
Yeah,
and it's just because they chose not to patch anything.
Yeah.
They said, here's a problem space. The problem space is all these characters.
Yeah.
And you find a way to optimize your performance across that space.
Absolutely.
Just figure it out. And I think that's a really interesting approach to game design that I feel like could be adopted now. It's one thing to have game-breaking bugs. It's another to argue balance back and forth. You look at games that are just balanced incessantly, like the comparison between. And we're getting far away from open world games now, but like StarCraft 1 versus StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, how often was StarCraft 1 was balanced like when it was released.
Yeah.
When they released Brood War.
Yeah.
And that was it. And for the most part, to my knowledge.
Yeah, there's a lot of patches for StarCraft, I will say.
1 or 2?
1.
Really?
Yeah, but they weren't like all the time. And I think they were stacked a lot closer to the beginning than like later in its life cycle, and they just like stopped patching it. After they got it to a point, they're like, this is great. We're going to stop.
Yeah, and from that point, people figured it out, right? And you could argue that you can't say it's perfectly balanced. No game can be perfectly balanced. It's just it's a human creation. It won't happen. So but you can argue that approach there was this is good, this is great, and now we're going to leave it up to the players to figure out how to be successful.
Yeah, and I like that approach. I think it's really useful.
I don't know if that applies. Maybe that's the Ubisoft approach, and that's why Assassin's Creed Unity had so many bugs. We're going to let the players figure out how to be successful in spite of these bugs.
Yeah.
Was the Far Cry 4 launch any better?
I hear so. Like, I hear that it was a lot better. So, I guess that's what you get for totally different teams doing things, right?
Sure. Full disclosure, much like, I don't know why we're talking about 2 open world games. I've never played either of them. I've failed as a podcast host this week.
Thing?
But I've never played Far Cry in any incarnation.
Yeah.
I hear 3 was particularly great.
Yeah.
And I probably should have played it.
What I heard too was that I'm going to try and beat these people real quick. Oh yeah, thank you. That worked out well. Drascua. Pommelstone of Mehrunes Razor.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
So did you play Far Cry?
So I played Far Cry 1, which is, maybe that's too long ago. Too much long ago? I don't know. But it was too long ago. It was that game was really cool. It's an open world game, and it was in a environment like kind of like a tropical environment, and there's vehicles and there's just like a lot of stuff to do, which I thought was really cool at the time because you didn't see that very often, and it was definitely like an advantage that game had. But I haven't played 2 or 3, so I don't know.
Shrug.
I don't know. Here 2 is like kind of like a cult classic because they like tried a lot of different things that there's like a lot of different systems and. So I've got it downloaded on Steam, and it's one of those ones that is in my bin of Steam things that I will play one day.
Is your Steam is your Steam collection like a library in a house? Like you got a bunch of books, you've never read them, but like they're there and you can look at them.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's how I feel about my Steam collection.
I wish that I played all those games. I've bought them at some point.
Yeah. Right.
But. Hey, what are you going to do?
Someday it'll happen.
Someday. But anyway, but I hear that it went really well. I hear that there are some fun glitches and things like that.
Oh,
but
it's fun. It's Ubisoft.
Every game has its fun glitches, right? Which is, they don't have to be game breaking, and that's sort of the difference between, like, some of these single-player games, specifically Assassin's Creed Unity, we talked about last week. It's just like, this is totally game-breaking. I can't do anything about it at all. So, and that's kind of a bummer when you hit that kind of stuff. I get a new shout. That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. But the difference between, say, like a Far Cry 4 or like a Dragon Age Inquisition, and I think like the bugs that you find in like a Bethesda game like this one, where there's just like a million systems to break. You find a lot more crazy bugs in big games like this.
It's true. It's true.
The first like when Fallout New Vegas came out, and like the dude, have you seen the video of the guy? Like,
no.
So you like wake up in bed, and there's a dude sitting on a chair, and he's like,
he's
hey,
like a doctor or something.
Yeah, he's like, who are you? What are you doing? And do you remember who you are? And can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And that's how they like, I'm gonna search a goat. leg of goat. And he tells you, that's how you like set up your character. Like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm strong.
I've always liked the Fallout series for that.
Yeah,
they had very creative ways of creating a character.
Yeah, totally. Even Elder Scrolls Morrowind. You like come in and you like register as a prisoner or whatever, right? And it's like here's your papers.
Is that Morrowind or Oblivion?
Maybe
were you a prisoner of both?
And you're a prisoner in this one too at the beginning, so maybe that's just a thing that.
Yeah.
Steel dagger fatigue. But anyway, one of the bugs was that you actually like sit. He sits in a chair and you're like in bed, and he starts talking to you, and his upper torso starts spinning, just like his like whole body like turns completely upside down. It's very terrifying.
That's the best.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just like a lot of bugs like that where people's like heads would start spinning. Maybe it's just his head would start spinning. That's maybe even worse. I'm not sure. But
I think that probably is worse.
Yeah. So there's just a lot. That's a fun thing about open world games. There's bugs, and they're often fun.
What's your favorite open world game? Best one?
I think Fallout New Vegas. To be honest,
New Vegas.
I really love the game.
I bounced off it, man.
Yeah.
I tried.
Why did you bounce?
I don't know, man. I got this general malaise about video games lately.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know if it's because we work at a company that is so gaming centric.
Right.
But I go home. I work till 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And I'll go home and do some more work, and it'll be like 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just like unwind a little bit, decompress. I'll play a video game or something.
Yeah.
And
is it too close to what we've been doing?
Maybe I just can't do it. I just can't boot them up.
Yeah.
And it's like that's too much work, or this is a AAA title and it's just so generic and bland and vanilla. It's like, oh yay, another man shoot. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Or oh yay, another indie game that's all pixel art. Hooray! Yeah. So I've kind of got this like general malaise toward gaming.
Yeah.
And as of such, I just keep bouncing off games. And so one of those was Fallout New Vegas, which I started playing, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And, I booted it up, and I like installed a bunch of mods. It's like, oh, this is going to be fun. I'll install a bunch of mods and some cool graphics and stuff. So, nothing feature related, just all graphic mods because it's 2014 and the game was made a long time ago. And I got it running, and I played through the first city, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't know. I just I don't want to go shoot lizards in the face. This doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
And I quit. Never played it again.
I think you should pick it back up.
Do you do that? Am I the only one with the video game malaise?
I think so. I think that one of the big things that I really enjoy about games like Skyrim that sort of combats that malaise, and also I guess is something that would combat the malaise in something like Fallout New Vegas is like, and it's a thing about open worlds that's just crazy and cool and sort of like engrossing. Is the open world nature where it's like I can go to this little town, like here I'm just sort of like looking around at it, called Dawnstar, and it's totally different than any of the other worlds. And so for me, like I'm like trying to decompress, and I'm like I want to go to Skyrim, I want to go to post-apocalyptic Nevada, or whatever. Yeah. And that was the thing I really liked about Fallout New Vegas was I loved the world that they created. That was one of my favorite things. That it was sort of like this Wild West. The Wild West had like reappeared after nuclear fallout.
Yeah, I guess the problem with me is it's too much choice, man. Yeah. Like I just sit down and I get in the world and I'm like, just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
This is how bad it's gotten. This is terrible.
Tell me.
This is how bad it's gotten. So I was playing Dishonored a while back, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic game. I love Dishonored.
Yeah.
But I got to this part about halfway through the game where you get kidnapped by the assassin guy and you escape or whatever. That's about the part of the game I was in. And you get to a certain part and you have to find a canister of whale oil to like, I don't know, lower a bridge or open a door. It's something. I don't remember. Yeah. But you got to find it and put it in a conduit thing. Yeah. And so I'm looking at this conduit and I'm like, where is this whale oil, right? So I take the mouse and I spin left, and I spin right, spin up, spin down. I don't see it, so I quit the game forever. I quit the game forever. And I was like, months later, I went back and I was like, where was that whale oil? So I went and just watched a Dishonored, Let's Play or whatever, and
it
was like, so if you're standing at the door of a building, it is literally 10 feet to the left and around the corner. Like you got
so close.
You walk 10 feet in the direction and you're done. And like I just couldn't do it. I just don't want to do this. And I think that was like the moment when
then you realized
I went to full blown gaming malaise.
Yeah.
Just like, whoa.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore. And so now I might play video games like 2 hours a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
That's why you're not playing right now, are you?
No, and I wouldn't want to. I just look at your flipping. I don't want to do that.
Rolling around. It's fun.
Yeah, I don't want to. Don't make me do stuff.
That's right.
I don't know. That's pretty sad, right? It's pretty sad existence.
It is sad.
Yeah.
On that note, I should tell you about my character real quick.
Okay.
And who I've got, because you just saw me feed on somebody, so that might give you indication of that I am a vampire, and that is true.
Oh, nice.
I did the vampire quest for Dawnguard, and just decided to stay a vampire. It's cool. You got some powers that, like, the longer you go without feeding, you become more vampire-y. People get scared of you, and they like.
See, in the old games, couldn't you be a vampire in the old games, but you couldn't be out in the sun and stuff?
Yeah. So like, the further you go from like feeding on somebody, the like more susceptible you are to the sun, and the more it like damages you. So it's really interesting.
Huh.
This person that's my like companion right now is the main vampiress from the Dawnguard DLC.
If you kill her, does it kill all the other vampires?
I don't think so, but like they were going to use her to do some sort of ritual thing to destroy the world. I don't really know.
Fair enough.
And so we fought them and saved the world. It was cool.
Oh, gotta save the world, man.
Always.
Just another day at the office.
That's right. And so anyway, it's kind of like an archer, thief, sneaky character, so kind of like snipery version of
I never play stealth
fantasy
characters in open world games.
Yeah.
I just feel like the stealth isn't good enough.
Yeah.
It's just not like the mechanics are crouch and walk slow.
That's right.
And while perhaps that is the essence of stealth, it takes a lot more to make stealth really convincing. You know, I mentioned Dishonored already, and I think there's a game that really does stealth.
Yeah.
Some of the Splinter Cell games really did stealth.
Yeah. They do it so well.
Yeah.
I love Splinter. Did you sell? This is unrelated, but did you play Splinter Cell? What's the latest one? There's Conviction, and then the latest one was
which one was he like all disgraced and wearing blue jeans?
Yeah, it was Conviction.
Okay, I like that one. It was alright.
And so it was a different kind of play style. Anyway,
it was more arcadey.
Yeah, the latest one actually very much took from like the old series and brought back a lot of the stealth stuff, but then added some of the cool stuff that you could do in Conviction.
Yeah.
Like the like one or two button press, you like kill 2
Mark
or 3
and
people.
Execute and stuff. Yeah.
Because that was cool. Because that, I think, you talk about the open world kind of like taking you out of the game or out of the open world and stuff. Like that really puts you, when they put mechanics in that actually like help you feel like you are as awesome as Sam Fisher actually is, that he's actually could like, I can't move my mouse fast enough to like, shoot different people. But he's like a master spy.
He's Sam Fisher.
Yeah, and so Sam should be able to do stuff like that. And I think that's a good way that you can do that. And honestly, I think you see me in this playthrough a little bit use the stealth stuff. Like you can level up your stealth in this game in a way that really makes it convincing. I think because you're just like you get all these damage bonuses, and if you're sneaky, you can just basically walk up behind people and they don't even know you're there.
Stab them in the face.
Sneaky. But I do, this is the thing. One of the things I do love about AAA immersive worlds like this is just, earlier we were kind of in the mountains, but now we're in like a pretty sweet mountainy snowstorm going on, And
in a billowing snowstorm with your poor companion just running behind you.
I know. Why?
You're a jerk.
Maybe there's a mod that gives her a horse. That would be a great mod. Somebody make that.
Companion horses?
Yeah. So, anyway, enough about open worlds for now. Let's talk about what's going on at GameWisp right now?
What is going on at GameWisp? So something people may not know if they're just watching the podcast.
I'm just going to circle around this wall.
This week started a segment called Morning Coffee.
Morning Coffee.
And we do Morning Coffee because we got into the habit of coming into the office like around 9 Central, 8:30 Central, and spending 10 or 15 minutes kind of talking about what we were going to do that day. And, you know, over a cup of coffee or whatever it is you do in the office in the morning.
Yeah.
And also while simultaneously playing a video game
That's
for like
right.
15 minutes or whatever. I think Michael was working his way through BioShock Infinite or
That's
something.
Right.
And so, you know, he'd play some Infinite. We'd sit down and chat what we were doing that day, what needed to get done, etc. And then we'd go do it. And so we decided to stream this on Twitch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Live stream this in a segment called Morning Coffee.
And we get coffee, and it's the morning.
Morning coffee in the morning.
That's right.
And we, you know, so we do it on Twitch, you know, just as a little 30-minute live stream. If, you know, you can see it on our Twitter. You can see where we start streaming. And, you know, if you want to jump in and ask us questions or whatever, we're pretty candid. We'll tell you what we're working on or what we're doing or whatever. Yeah. And we also, we're starting to save the VODs from those streams, the video on demand files. And we will more than likely be putting some of those on YouTube.
I agree.
I don't think we had the first ones because Twitch doesn't enable saving of streams to video files by default. You have to turn it on because I mean they only like sold for $1 billion. I mean they don't have the money. They don't have the money to turn on VOD. And so, you know, we enabled that this week, and so we'll probably upload some. Yeah. You know, and it's just a little short video to kind of keep you guys abreast on what we're doing
and the daily activity. You know, I think that's it's a big part of it. It's fun.
Interest of transparency and full disclosure, right? Like you know, if you care about what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, if you have opinions on that kind of thing, you can come listen to us and talk to us, and we'll field some Q&A.
That's right.
But we have a firm 30-minute limit because there's work to be done. So
right on.
Yeah. So if you want to jump in, it's usually around 9 o'clock. Sometimes 10 after 9, depending on what we have to get set up.
That's right.
And then we do it. So that's one thing.
Yep. The other thing is that we are hard at work on stuff.
Still
always working. Always hard at work. That is kind of our bag. You know, we work hard
all the time. So what have we finished?
What have we finished? Well, we got a bunch of stuff on the board up there. We finished since last week. We've been working hard on sort of extending what we did last week, which was a video encoding pipeline.
Yeah.
And making sure that's working really nicely.
I feel like that's pretty much there.
Yeah. It's just a matter of how are we going to scale that up and making some decisions around that. That's I think that's kind of a thing we'll get to as we grow.
Yeah, we won't really know what it's going to look like until people are beating the crap out of it with video uploads
exactly
and
right.
what the performance is like at scale. We have ideas, but we're going to have to see some data around that.
Totally.
So, we're doing a lot. Like we're kind of in the polish phase.
I thought we were friends.
There's just a lot of polish work around uploading video, around organizing that video into series, around viewing that video. You know, we finished building sponsorship.
Yep.
So that your fans can pay a monthly fee to see premium and early access content, as well as have access to a couple more features we're keeping very secret until the near future.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and so we've got that going on. We've got all the follower functionality done, so we can follow people and
get updates on what they're doing
without necessarily sponsoring them. And we have all of that is in the UI now, so you can go and see that on your profile page or whatever. And so it's just a ton of polish and
making it cool, making it fun.
Yeah, and we're gonna keep polishing for the next. I think November 30th is our deadline.
Yeah, to get it in the hands of content creators. So.
Yeah, not in a wide release, but people that we still want to reach out to. And so we're looking at November 30th there. The YouTube interoperability is still a big. Now I won't call it a question mark, but it's still a big thing left to be done.
Yeah, we've got a lot of ways that is integrated, and we've tested some things, but we want that to be really perfect. And so once we've kind of gotten sponsorship to a really great place, we'll turn our attention to polishing all of the tools, all of the pages, all of the things, but then also a lot of our main development work on actually creating and testing and hardening, just to sort of like make sure it's awesome. The YouTube features, interacting from YouTube, so you can import things like videos and series to us in a lot better way. And then also, and most importantly, as far as like working perfectly, is pushing stuff from GameWisp to YouTube, and just making that a really pleasant, fun experience for content creators.
Yeah.
That makes it easier, makes life easier on you, makes managing sponsors or insiders, premium fans, makes it a joy rather than a burden. I think that's a big part of what we're interested in making happen.
We're still totally focused on, saving time. And so that's for creators anyway. That's where we're headed. So I don't know. It's shaping up. I'm getting excited about it. I really want some people to see it, but Michael has told me to be patient, as there's still a few more things that need to get done.
That's right. But I'm eager to get it in the hands of people as well. So.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting close to where people can actually use it and do things with it. So yeah, good stuff. That's where we are. And if you're interested in testing this stuff out near the end of the month or early December, you can, as always, email us info@gamewisp.com, info@gamewisp.com.
That's right.
And we will take a look at your channel. And we're not really concerned about how big you are. We're more concerned about how often you're uploading and using YouTube. And that's kind of our major metric. Are you using YouTube frequently? And if you are, we're interested in you using our service to see how it kind of fits into your workflow, into your pipeline.
That's right.
So yeah, there we are. So drop us a line. And as always, we'll be back next week with episode 5 with a theme that is yet to be determined. And we will be at morning coffee tomorrow and every morning, Monday through Friday. So come check it out. And we'll leave you with this wonderful flute.
That's right.
So yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
That's right. Have a good rest of the week.
Indeed.